later turned out was that the Inmarsat communication system had been turned off and then turned back on again.
The screen fades into darkness, leaving only the faint shadow of a radar glowing in the still night. That flight path, which seemed to lead toward safety, suddenly went dark. In the middle of the sky, MH370 simply vanished. No alarm, no final signal. In 2014, the aircraft carrying 239 people, from passengers to crew, disappeared in complete mystery, leaving no trace behind.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
No photo, no clear wreckage, only a suffocating silence buried in the depths of the ocean and the pitch-black sky. As time passed, the sea and the sky seemed to swallow every hope of discovery. That silence has stretched on for more than a decade, leaving the entire world unable to move on. And then, after more than a decade of silence, modern technologies like AI, unmanned underwater vehicles, high-resolution satellite imagery, and the power of quantum computing began to reveal new signs. Data that once seemed lifeless now hides truths buried in the past. Experts have even used AI to reconstruct the scene of that year, and in those chilling simulations, a shocking truth emerged, one powerful enough to completely change everything humanity once believed about the most haunting disappearance in aviation history. March 8, 2014. At Kuala Lumpur International Airport, a commercial flight of Malaysia Airlines was preparing to take off for Beijing. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members, a total of 239 people from 14 different nationalities, most of them Chinese citizens. The Boeing 777-200ER, designated MH370, left the runway at 12:41 a.m., carrying the expectation of a journey lasting less than 6 hours to reach the Chinese capital. But instead of ending with embraces at the destination, this flight opened one of the greatest mysteries in modern aviation history. When the aircraft reached its cruising altitude, the voice of Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah came through the communication system. "Good night, Malaysian 370.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night. Good night, Malaysian 370.
That was the final greeting, transmitted at 1:19 a.m., just as MH370 was leaving Malaysian airspace and preparing to be handed over to Vietnam's control. Everything sounded normal, the voice showing no signs of worry or tension. But only 2 minutes later, the transponder, the device that transmits the plane's identification to civilian radar, suddenly went dark. From that moment, MH370 officially vanished from civilian air traffic control screens. What was even stranger appeared when Malaysia's military radar recorded something unusual. Instead of continuing toward Beijing, the Boeing 777 made a sharp turn, heading back across the Malay Peninsula, flying over the Strait of Malacca, then moving toward the Andaman Sea. The flight no longer followed any filed flight plan.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
It moved as if someone had taken full control, carefully charting a mysterious route, almost deliberately avoiding other commercial air corridors. This very detail led investigators and the public to ask, was this not simply an unexpected accident, but a ghost flight with a premeditated purpose? The journey of MH370 from that point sank into darkness. Civilian radar could no longer track it. No more positioning signals were transmitted. Only small, silent blips remained on the military radar screen, marking a baffling reverse course before gradually disappearing completely into the vast Indian Ocean. From that very moment, history began a search unlike anything before, and the questions surrounding MH370 became an obsession that has lasted for more than a decade.
370 maintaining level 350.
The radar went silent, but the sky did not completely vanish. While civilian air traffic control screens had gone dark, a commercial telecommunications satellite named Inmarsat quietly captured the final signals. They were not the pilot's voice, nor were they clear navigation data. They were only pings, automatic signals sent out from the satellite communication system on the Boeing 777. And surprisingly, those signals did not stop when radar contact was lost. They continued for more than 7 hours after MH370 disappeared from the screens, leaving behind a small but priceless chain of data. Inmarsat's engineers and experts analyzed these signals. They realized that each ping was like a faint heartbeat of the aircraft, still pulsing in the darkness, reminding the world that MH370 had not vanished instantly. But the frightening truth was, those signals did not reveal an exact location. They only created a curved strip of data, which investigators called the seventh arc, a theoretical line drawn across the Earth's surface, stretching deep into the southern Indian Ocean. That arc opened up an endless debate. Where exactly had MH370 fallen within that vast expanse? Based on the seventh arc, many nations launched an international search campaign of unprecedented scale. More than 26 countries from Australia, China, and the United States to Malaysia took part. Warships, patrol aircraft, and even unmanned submarines were deployed to scan vast stretches of ocean spanning thousands of kilometers. The Australian government, leading the coordination effort, described it as the largest aviation maritime search operation in human history. Hundreds of millions of dollars were poured in, with thousands of flight hours and countless days and nights spent surveying the ocean floor. It was believed that at such a scale, the final answer would surely emerge. And yet, the deeper the search went, the more elusive the truth became. In July 2015, more than a year after the tragedy, a fragment of an aircraft wing, a flaperon, washed ashore on Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean. Experts confirmed it belonged to MH370. After that, a few more pieces of debris, from wing panels to small parts of the interior, were discovered along the coasts of Mozambique, Madagascar, and Tanzania. But aside from these scattered traces, the massive Boeing seemed to have evaporated. There was no fuselage, no black boxes, no evidence strong enough to reconstruct the full disaster. Even more troubling, the Inmarsat data, once considered the most reliable clue, became the center of doubt. Some experts argued that the trajectory calculations had major limitations.
Is it as complete as we're being led to believe?
The pings only revealed the distance between the plane and the satellite, not precise coordinates. As a result, the search zone spanned tens of thousands of square kilometers, nearly impossible to cover in full. The obsession grew heavier as people realized that, despite advanced technology, the ocean was still vast and deep enough to hide a plane weighing over 200 tons. The irony was that the very signals once seen as the only light in the darkness had led humanity into a search that dragged on endlessly, with results close to nothing. After more than $200 million spent and years of exhaustive effort, the search officially ended in 2018 without yielding a definitive answer. That ending left the global public even more stunned. A modern aircraft, flying in an era of near-total satellite coverage, could vanish with only a handful of faint pings left behind as proof. From this paradox, MH370 entered a new chapter, a mystery not only of aviation technology, but also of a long-standing debate about trust. Were those arcs of data the only path toward truth, or just a thin veil covering a far more complex story? And that was when artificial intelligence stepped in to re-examine the streams of data once thought hopeless. When traditional search campaigns closed with results that were almost nothing, many believed the secret of MH370 would remain forever buried beneath the ocean. But 21st century technology opened a new path. After years, the massive archive of data from the disappearance was fed into artificial intelligence systems and quantum computers to be processed all over again. These algorithms did more than just rearrange information. They were trained to scan billions of possibilities in an instant, comparing thousands of patterns invisible to the human eye. With the support of quantum computing, AI could run countless scenarios in parallel. If the plane fell at one set of coordinates, where would ocean currents have carried the debris? If satellite signals were distorted, how far could the real trajectory have shifted? Every detail, every small parameter once overlooked was now fed back into the model. One of the breakthroughs came from AI's reanalysis of satellite data combined with a global radio network known as WSPR, a system able to detect ghost signals, faint distortions created when a large object passes through the atmosphere. Experts believe this is a data source humanity never fully tapped. When AI scanned hundreds of millions of radio logs from 2014, it identified anomalies that matched the estimated path of MH370, like faint footprints left on sand that no human eye could ever see. Beyond that, artificial intelligence was also used to simulate ocean conditions across the past 11 years. Algorithms for global currents and weather were combined to reconstruct how debris might have drifted from the southern Indian Ocean all the way to the coasts of Africa. The AI results highlighted unusual concentration points, overlapping with sites where the flaperon and other fragments had been found. This added precision to the theory that the fuselage still lies somewhere in the previously marked zone, only hidden by depth and the complex terrain of the seabed. The arrival of AI also raised a chilling question. If these anomalies were already buried in the data from 2014, why were they overlooked? Was the truth always there, hidden in the numbers, only beyond the reach of human tools at the time? That question shook investigators and sent shivers through the global public. Because if it is true, MH370 was never a disappearance without clues, but a story of how humanity ignored the whispers of a secret hidden in plain sight. Now, the results from AI systems and quantum calculations are being handed over to Ocean Infinity, the company that has resumed the mission to hunt for MH370 beneath the sea. Experts believe the combination of historical data and AI power will allow search areas to be narrowed with unprecedented accuracy. After hundreds of millions of dollars and years of frustration, hope has been reignited once more, but this time with a different tool: artificial intelligence. As AI begins to reconnect the scattered fragments, the picture that emerges is not only the final flight path of MH370, but also details that make the entire world shiver. And at this moment, a chilling question arises. If the truth has been silently sitting inside forgotten data for 11 years, what have we missed? Is the giant Boeing resting quietly at the bottom of the ocean, or has it become part of a scenario far more terrifying? While government agencies gradually gave up, one independent researcher chose to go against the tide. His name is Vincent Line, an oceanography expert formerly with the University of Tasmania, who spent years digging into open-source data. He did not have a budget of hundreds of millions of dollars, nor an international search fleet, but he had something else: artificial intelligence and the global seafloor mapping database known as GEBCO, a system developed through cooperation between the United Nations and several research institutes. Line fed the entire GEBCO map into an AI system, instructing it to scan every pixel of the ocean floor for any abnormal signs. Billions of data points on depth and sediment were filtered. The result? The AI stopped at a strange set of coordinates, 33.02 degrees north, 101.27 degrees east, a region Line referred to as the Penang longitude deep. Here, the seafloor data suddenly revealed an unusual formation, resembling a massive metallic structure buried beneath, inconsistent with the natural terrain around it. For Line, this was not just a vague signal. He proposed that MH370 did not crash and shatter as many believed, but instead was brought down in a controlled descent into these deep waters. If true, it would explain a series of paradoxes that had long puzzled investigators. Why, after more than a decade, had only a handful of small debris pieces washed up on African shores, when a typical plane crash scatters wreckage across tens of square kilometers? Why did those fragments appear relatively intact, showing no signs of a violent explosion? According to this hypothesis, if the plane was gently landed in deep water, the main fuselage could still be largely intact on the seabed, with only smaller parts breaking off and drifting with the currents. That would explain why previous search teams, focused on other areas, never found anything. In other words, they had been looking in the wrong place, while the answer may have been sitting exactly where the GEBCO data and AI had indicated. What made Line's discovery even more chilling was how it aligned with earlier analyses suggesting that the pilot might have retained control of MH370 for hours after radar contact was lost. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau once reported evidence of a deliberate flight based on the unusual detours and logical altitude adjustments. If both factors, flight data and seafloor anomalies, were linked together, then the theory of a controlled landing in deep waters became more compelling than ever. Still, Vincent Line did not stop at forming a hypothesis. He called on the international community to deploy unmanned submersibles to directly survey the Penang longitude deep. Only visual evidence from the seabed could confirm whether that anomaly was MH370 or not. He even argued that if the theory proved correct, the black boxes and much of the aircraft's structure could still be recovered in relatively preserved condition, protected by the high pressure and lack of light at such depths. Of course, Line's discovery remains controversial. Some argue it is merely noise in the mapping data or a natural formation not yet explained. But regardless, the fact that AI detected this abnormal pixel has opened a new perspective. It showed that the answers might have always been hidden in the data, waiting only for the right tool at the right time to bring them out. And it is precisely at this point that a haunting question echoes. Could it be that MH370 never disintegrated into dust across the ocean, but still lies silent and whole in a deep abyss no one has ever touched? If that is true, then this story is far more chilling than any theory ever imagined. When Vincent Line revealed his hypothesis about the Penang longitude deep, the public immediately connected it to one shocking detail in the investigation files. It was the flight simulator found inside the home of Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, the man at the controls of the doomed MH370. Years earlier, when Malaysian police searched Zahari's house, they discovered that his simulator stored a bizarre flight path. That route led to a plane departing from Kuala Lumpur, looping down into the Indian Ocean and ending in the middle of the vast sea, almost identical to the area now highlighted by AI and GEBCO data. At the time, investigators asked, was it just a routine practice scenario or the trace of a plan carefully drawn in advance? What made the theory even more chilling was the coincidence of coordinates. the simulator's route not only aligned with line suspicious zone, but also crossed the meridian line pointing back toward Penang, Zahari's birthplace and hometown. To many, this no longer felt like a random chance. It seemed more like a personal mark, a cold signature left in the sky by the captain himself. International experts debated this fiercely. An Australian report published in 2016 admitted that the simulator data partially matched MH370's path, but concluded there was no proof of intent. Other investigators argued that there was no reason for an experienced pilot like Zaharia to practice such a meaningless route, unless he was preparing for something deliberate. When all the pieces are put together, from satellite data to the Penang longitude deep anomaly and the simulator flight plan, the picture that emerges is haunting. It suggests MH370 may not have been an accidental tragedy, but a deliberate act, carefully prepared. If that theory holds true, then the 7 hours of silence, the strange arcs of data, and the controlled descent into deep waters all become part of a plan so cold it defies belief. Yet not everyone agrees. Many relatives of the passengers fiercely reject this theory, saying it turns a dedicated pilot into a villain without solid evidence. They believe Zahari was also a victim, and that blaming him is simply a way to cover up other failures in the investigation. The debate, as a result, has never quieted. Even so, this chilling theory continues to leave millions unsettled. Perhaps MH370 is not just a mystery of technology, but a mystery of human will. A will strong enough to control the fate of 239 lives, turning an ordinary flight into an unprecedented catastrophe. More than a decade has passed since the night MH370 vanished, yet the world has never been able to accept a mystery without answers. But in early 2025, a new spark of hope appeared. The Malaysian government officially signed a $70 million contract with Ocean Infinity, a Norway-based ocean technology company, to restart the search. The agreement carried the name "No Find, No Fee." Ocean Infinity would only be paid if MH370 was found. It became the largest private search operation in aviation history, a testament to the global determination that this secret could not remain buried forever. By late February 2025, Ocean Infinity's ships had departed port, carrying state-of-the-art autonomous underwater drones. These machines could dive nearly 6,000 meters deep, scanning the seabed with advanced sensors, redrawing maps of regions that traditional radar and sonar had missed before. The main focus of the search was the southern Indian Ocean, covering more than 15,000 square kilometers, the area considered most likely to contain MH370, based on satellite data and AI analysis. But once again, the ocean showed its terrifying power. In April 2025, only weeks after launching, Ocean Infinity was forced to pause the mission. The brutal winter storms of the southern Indian Ocean, with waves rising dozens of meters high, made drone operations nearly impossible. Experts warned that pushing forward could cost them millions of dollars worth of equipment and irreplaceable data. The campaign was therefore delayed, scheduled to resume later this year when calmer seas return. Even while the search was on hold, MH370 had already created another kind of legacy. It changed how global aviation views safety. Airlines, regulators, and international organizations began treating AI, big data, and even quantum computing as essential tools. These systems can analyze billions of data points instantly, monitor flights continuously, predict risks, and trigger emergency responses faster than any human. In other words, the tragedy of MH370 pushed forward a technological revolution in aviation safety, ensuring that every flight today is tracked more closely than ever before. Yet no matter how powerful the technology and no matter how many millions have been spent, MH370 has still not been found. The ocean remains silent, as if determined to guard this secret for itself. And the question that has haunted humanity for more than a decade still stands. Are we truly getting closer to the truth, or are we only wandering deeper into an endless maze of data? MH370 disappeared on a March night in 2014, taking 239 lives with it and leaving behind a trail of strange clues. From the mysterious Inmarsat satellite arcs to the Penang longitude deep identified by AI to Captain Zahari's chilling flight simulator data, every piece connects into a picture that feels both vague and haunting. Each clue is like a fragment scattered on the ground, enough to stir curiosity, but never enough to complete the entire story. Artificial intelligence has now brought us closer than ever to the truth. It has rescanned data once thought forgotten, uncovering anomalies no human eye could see. It has simulated the ocean currents, redrawn the drift paths of debris, even highlighted areas no one had ever considered. But no matter how powerful AI becomes, no matter how many billions of possibilities quantum computers can process, the final answer still lies silent beneath the deep ocean where light has never reached. The most haunting part is this. Even now, we still don't know how MH370 disappeared. Was it a tragic accident, a technical failure no one could foresee, or was it the result of a carefully crafted plan, marked by human intent and cold calculation? And if one day the secret is finally revealed, can you be sure you really want to know the truth? Because the truth may not be what we hope for. It may be far more terrifying. More than a decade later, MH370 is no longer just a disappearance. It has become a symbol of technology's fragility, of humanity's limits against nature, and of our obsession with secrets that remain unsolved. In the darkness of the ocean, in the silence that covers it, that Boeing still lies somewhere out there, like a challenge thrown at the entire world. Do we have the patience, the courage, and the technology to reach out and touch the truth? And here, the final question echoes like an invitation. Was MH370 a tragic accident or a horrifying conspiracy planned long before? What do you think really happened in those last moments? Share your thoughts below in the comments, because this is not only aviation's mystery, it is humanity's obsession. Don't forget to subscribe to MindGap to continue this journey with us, uncovering hidden secrets and strange stories that history and science have yet to fully explain. Because one thing is certain, the world around us is still full of mysteries, and every time you return, we will open another door.